Okay, my lovelies, we're going to make our own puff pastry. It's not as hard as it sounds. It's just time consuming. And most recipes, for most, including my Napoleon, I use frozen and thawed, pre-prepared puff pastry sheets. And I have a pound of very cold butter cubed. And this is the beginning stage. And we're going to add to that 1/2 cup of all-purpose flour, like that. And we're gonna blend this until it's creamed. And we're gonna roll it out into a square and cool it again. The rule of thumb here is everything must be cold at all times, so there will be many periods at which this goes into the fridge or the freezer. We want the flour and the butter to incorporate. I'm going to remove this. I think it's going to take up too much space. And I'm just going to keep going so that we get sort of a creamy texture. Oh, now it's in a, see how it went into a ball? Okay, that's done. And I gotta move this and make room and add some flour to our board. And we're going to get this, you can't roll it when it's not cold. Okay, so take out as much as you can get here. I'm using my fingers because this is some sturdy stuff. And you see it's pretty creamed. I can tell by the touch it's still cold. My oven's on from when I made the puff pastries for my Napoleons, but I have the window open and the fan's on. So hopefully that won't be a disaster. And I don't want to touch it very much. So we're going to remove that. And we're going to get our very cold rolling pin and make a square. And the square must be no less than 1 inch thick. Okay, so I'm gonna roll the pin. I'll use a little flour. Unfortunately, it feels weird that I can feel that heat. But look how smooth that is. Okay, so you can also see how it's sticking. So don't let it stick. And, I need more flour. It's going to have to become a square. And it's going to have to, that's a piece of herbs. So don't let it bother you. You want an inch square, okay? So that side is higher. This side is lower. It's still not a square. Flip it over. Get some dust on there. Dust meaning flour. And I feel like that's an inch. So we want to get a corner going on here. There's not a lot of time before it gets kind of melty. So let's just do it gently and help form this corner. Oh, sticking. Okay. So for me, that's a square. Okay, so that's a good square. And then you take the plastic wrap and we're gonna put on a small sheet, my baby sheet. And I gotta wrap it first, and then I'm gonna freeze it for 15 minutes or in the refrigerator for 30 minutes. Okay, lovely. So the thing is, I have 1 pound sifted flour, but I already put half a cup of the total 1 pound. In French pastry, you have to weigh it. That's just how it is. So I put 1 half cup in the butter. So I'm gonna take 1/2 cup out of this mixture because the total needs to be, the total weight needs to be 1 pound. There's 1 pound of butter and there's 1 pound of flour. So I'm gonna keep that for the board and dump the rest of the sifted flour, sifted and weighed, into a mixing bowl. We're gonna add 1 teaspoon. See, these are such ancient recipes that everything's simple. 1 teaspoon of salt and 1 cup of cream or milk, or they say you can do it with water, but I don't know, why would you? Yes, it's the paddle attachment. We're gonna mix up the, why am I having trouble tonight? We're gonna mix up the salt and flour first. This is rather simple at the beginning. And it's actually simple all the way through. It's just there's often a 30-minute waiting period between each stage, and that period is where everything gets chilled again. So that's why it takes so long. Anyway, so we're gonna add our cream, and this is gonna turn into a shady mixture. There's no yeast in this because the butter does the work of rising. Okay, that's kind of rocking to and fro. Let's not get it over, let's not build too much gluten. Okay, so we're gonna put some flour on the board, and then we're going to make this into a square, but it's going to be thicker than the butter square. All right, so the butter square was 1 inch thick, and this one is going to be 1.5 inch thick. I'm going to take this away. We're going to make it heavy. Put a little of the flour on here. Make it not so, make it a little bit less obvious here. And then, ooh, now we're gonna bring that together in hand. And we're gonna roll it. And this is what is going to make the layers between the butter. Okay, so I could add a little water, but I think we can also just do it with some wrap. Hold on. So if you put the wrap on, you can squeeze and make it come together. Okay? And then we can flip it over, and I'm going to, it's quite dry, but I think it'll work. It's supposed to work. Anyway, so we can flip it. Oh, that didn't work. We're not gonna flip it. What we're gonna do is roll it out with the cold rolling pin. I'm using the plastic here just as something that can come between us. You know what? I might have to add some water to this. This could take a little while. I'm gonna add some water with my hand. You don't want to add a lot. Okay, so I'm forming it into a ball. I'm using my hands to add some water because it was too dry. And I also floured my hands so that the wetness would not make it break. I have a ball and I'm just gonna make it smooth as I can. It's not a kind of ball you need to knead per se, but you do need some gluten to stretch, and now it's safe to roll, and we're gonna dust the bottom off, and we're gonna roll it into a square using the bench scraper. It's just like the butter, but it's gonna be thicker, and that's for a reason, and you'll see later why one would do that. Okay, so it's square more or less. I'm going to take it in both directions, center out, and I might have to measure what is 1.5 inches. So, because eyeballing it isn't great. So, I think this is really it. I don't think you go any further, but I just would like it to be firmer. You know, I would like it to be more cohesive as a piece, but it's gonna be come now, and then I'm squishing in to make it. I have my little brush. I'm just gonna make it a perfect square as well as you can, and a quite thick one. Okay, that's gonna get wrapped, and that's going in the fridge for 30 minutes. Okay, it's time for the next stage. Everything's chilled. I'm gonna measure my butter flour slab, and it's 7 by 6, so obviously didn't make a square. But the point of measuring it is, so it's going back in the fridge. Somehow, the point of measuring is because we want to get our flour dough to be twice that size. So that would be, this is for the first, that's 14. You can do it that way, right? I like to do it that way. Let's see. 6 by 6. So that actually was a square. Imagine that. Okay, so I'm going to roll it out to 14. And we're just gonna gently do it. Don't let there be lots of extra flour, just enough to roll it. And that's a lot of extra flour. You know, the flour can go on the pin. And we're gonna do 14 in one direction and probably 7 in the other direction for our first, what they call in French, pastry making, puff pastry making, for the first fold. All right, so let's keep it going. And it's rolling very nicely. That's one. Go from the center. And then we're gonna have to go out, aren't we? So let's just measure it again. That's only 13. Let's go to the corner, to the corner, to the corner, to the corner. Start in the middle, go out. Go out to the corner, go out to the corner, start in the middle, roll out, go to the corner, go to the corner. So we want this to be a little bit wider than the 6. We want it to be 7. That's 8, that's good. And that's 14, almost 14. So let's do a little stretching. And we're gonna put our slab of butter right in the middle. Hold on. So you realize that, so you can see that it needed to be thicker than the butter because we want it to stretch further than the butter. So I'm gonna do it sideways. You know what? It doesn't look like I can do it. I want to do, hold on. See how tough, solid that is? That's great. I think we're going to make this longer. Because we want to do something like what's called an envelope fold. Or at least what was known as an envelope fold when people had other kinds of envelopes than we do. Okay, so I want it to be longer. So there we go. So now we're gonna have our slab of butter. I'm doing it this way, sideways, and we're gonna put this on one, and we're gonna fold like an envelope. You know what? I want it to be, it doesn't meet. It's possible that I measured wrong. Actually, I don't think I measured wrong. I think it was just a matter of the fact that this is such cold pastry that it doesn't fold gently. Okay, so we're gonna do one fold, so that's 1 butter, 1 flour, 1 flour, and now we're gonna do another fold, and we're gonna pinch up the sides like this. One might even want to, here, let me use some water to stick it down. You can stick it down like that, and like that. And we're gonna pinch it all together. I'm gonna use some water to help that happen. All right. Gotta pinch the edges because you don't want this butter to be exposed because it will leak out in the end. So you pinch, and make a nice square. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Make a nice square. This doesn't want to stick, so I'm using some water. And the same here. push it down against the very cold butter, and then add some water and make sure that we're pinching. See, this is why you need some water on your hand. You want some water. Get that nice and pinched, pinch, pinch, pinch all along the edge. Turn it over, and you now have butter that has been wrapped in flour in a nice square almost. And we're gonna put that back on the tray. I just want to press it a bit because I can feel the bottom isn't coming off easily. Anyway, got a nice butter square wrapped. It's going back on my sheet with some plastic, and it's going back in the fridge for 30 minutes. I don't know, it's pretty cold. I might not have to wait 30 minutes. Okay, lovelies. Remember when I made the non-yeasted puff pastry, the standard puff pastry package, and I just wrapped the shaped butter into the right dimension to be folded once, or to be wrapped over. See how it's wrapped? Now we're going to do the first of 6 rolls and folds. We have a lightly dusted surface. I have the window open so it's nice and cool. I have my frozen vintage rolling pin. And what we want to do here is keep the width, but roll it to 1/2 inch. I can see all these spots of butter. That's a good sign. But what we really want to do is laminate the butter, which means that there will be layers, very thin layers of butter and pastry. And when you roll and turn 6 times, you will end up mathematically with 729 layers. And this is the same as the yeasted number of layers, but that's for croissants and danishes. This is going to be our standard. This was frozen, and therefore it's, and it's thawed in the fridge for 2 days. So it's a little bit tough at the moment, but I'll show you in a minute. I'll get it there, and I'll get back to you. For standard puff pastry, it's not so much measuring the rectangle. You want to keep it as much of a rectangle as you can, but it's really to measure the thickness. And then when you're ready to use it, you are going to get into the geometry. So I've rolled this out. It's really cold and really stiff. It takes a lot of work. And it kind of looks around 16 or 17 inches in length, which is really common when you're using, when you're doing this. So when it comes to 1/2 inch, why is a 1/2? There's a 1/2. Okay, so we've achieved a 1/2, but it's thicker in the middle. And I want to make it even, so maybe a little less than a 1/2. And then we're going to do the letter fold. All right, so that's a 1/3. It hasn't broken here, which means I'm good. Brush off. Always brush. You don't want extra flour. Okay, it's cold enough I feel now that's 3. That's the first turn. We'll do 5 more. So I gotta have some flour here, and maybe I'll turn it over. And now we're gonna do it again, down to 1/2 inch. And that will be the second of 6. We have to do 6 in total. So I'll see you back when I've done 6. Oh, I should mention that after 1 or 2 of these, depending on the heat of the room and the heat of the butter package here, it's nicely packaged. You should chill it back in the fridge for 30 minutes. This is pretty cold and pretty stiff, and there's no, the elasticity isn't pushing back against me. So that's why I can do 2 before I actually do my next fold. And I want to get it as wide as it was before so that I can get down to 1/2 inch before my next fold. So that's what I'm gonna do. And when I do my next fold, I'm gonna wrap it up again and put it back in the fridge so that the layers of butter doesn't melt and seep through, thus destroying the lamination. This is definitely not wide enough. It's definitely not thin enough. 1/2 inch isn't super thin. It's just, you want to get as close to the original shape as possible. Otherwise, your layers will be too thick and it will be too difficult to roll out 6 times. All right, so we're on our second time, and I'll get back to you when I've rolled it out the 3rd, 4th, and 5th time. No, 6th time. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Okay, folks. Okay, I'm still on my second turn. I haven't started the turn. I'm going to turn it over, wipe off the flour, brush it off. Try not to make a mess. And I think we have something that resembles the thing we want. So we're gonna do a letter again, business letter fold. There we go. And then we're gonna turn, and we're gonna, that's 2. 1, 2. So the third one, I'm gonna let it chill because well, you know what? I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna do the third one now. Also getting down, making the rectangle, getting it down to at least 1/2 inch, maybe less. So we're gonna do the 6th roll after this has been chilled for 25 minutes or so. I have to say, you really, really should chill them after each fold and turn. I skipped a few chilling periods to save time, but it took a lot of elbow grease to get these turns made without chilling in between. Okay, and this is not yeasted, but it's almost as difficult. Yeasted puff pastries are a little harder because you have to press against, there's pressure from within, from the yeast growing. Even in the fridge it does. But I'm going to do the 6th turn, and then we're going to see if I get a half inch. And if I get close to that, I'm going to cut it in half and use half to make sausage rolls tomorrow. That should be yummy. I just wanted you to see what the 6th turn looks like. And we're going to continue. There's packets of dough and packets of butter and the 6th dough, but the dough is extremely smooth. So this is a super good sign. The reason I brush the flour off is between folds is because the flour will make it really hard, very difficult for the layers to stick again when they're folded. So I'm doing my fold. Well, no, I'm doing my best to roll this out. And you can see that this is the outline of the last fold. That's no big deal because we've changed the orientation, and every turn and fold changes the orientation. If you do the math, that means there's 729 layers of butter in it. And if I'm breathing into the camera, it's because I'm working really hard and it's not that easy, which is why you should just buy Buff Pastry. Anyway, I'm doing this as a proof of concept, and also to note, this is exactly the same method I did with the yeasted pastry, which I will use for croissants and danishes. Lots of the desserts we call danishes aren't Danish, but the Habsburg court in Vienna loved anything French, and it's very possible that some of the danishes I will make with the yeasted puff pastry are not Danish at all. Anyway, there we go. We did it. 6th turn. Take off the flour so that it will laminate. Press, still cold. There's a piece of herbs. And we're gonna push, pull, and push. And I'm going to dust it. Let me dust the inside. And this is our 6th. Oh, and because this is touching the board, I'm going to, sorry about that, can you see? Okay. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do a quick roll to press it, to laminate it. And then we know we have 6. I'm going to pop that in. Try to get it nice and rectangular. Press it about. And because this is not for, I'm not doing this so I can turn it again. I'm doing this because I want to make it even, and I want to laminate the layers together, and at a certain point and there we go. No, that's not quite right. Let's just gently get this to an even thickness. we're gonna cut it in half, and one could freeze half. Just want to, you can see the layers. Can you? It's pretty dark, but those are the layers. So one half is getting wrapped. Well, both halves are getting wrapped. And one half will be for my sausage rolls tomorrow that I'll make, which I will make tomorrow. And the other half could be frozen, but I have a feeling I'd like to use them also. Depends how much sausage meat I have. So we're done with the puff pastry, and that's how you do it.